Welcome to Inside Monster Jam, powered by Lucas Oil. I'm Scott Jordan. This week we were talking about the legacy of Sam Boyd Stadium, where Monster Jam and Supercross called home for over 2 decades. And to help me discuss that legacy, we're firing up the Great Clips hotline to go to the Chicagoland area to welcome in Feld Entertainment's Tom Williams. He's Senior Director of Live Event Marketing. Tom, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
So let's talk about your role in all of this, because when I started going down this Sam Boyd Stadium rabbit hole, your name was the one that popped up. Everybody kept saying, "I need to talk to Tom Williams. He's the guy." So what was your role in Sam Boyd when it came to Monster Jam and Supercross?
Yeah, sure. I first became involved with our events at Sam Boyd Stadium in 2000 by helping out with the first Monster Jam World Finals. The following year in '01, for World Finals 2, I was the promoter of the event. And after that, I was either the promoter or oversaw the Monster Jam World Finals all the way up until the final World Finals in '18. For Supercross, I started becoming involved in the Supercross finals in 2005. So all told, it was 18 years working with Sam Boyd Stadium between Monster Jam, Supercross, Monster Energy Cup. So seen a lot and done a lot with the stadium in that time.
Do you think that Sam Boyd Stadium and the town of Las Vegas had anything to do with the growth and popularity of Monster Jam and Monster Energy Supercross through that time?
I think somewhat. With Monster Jam, we started the World Finals when Las Vegas itself wasn't growing as much as it has over the past 10 years. And Monster Jam has grown significantly since we started the World Finals. And I think it kind of worked hand in hand. Prior to the World Finals at Sam Boyd Stadium, we were only doing half attendance with monster truck events there. Once we started the World Finals, it really grew to the point where we were selling out multiple days. And at the same time, the Monster Jam brand grew as well. When Las Vegas and Sam Boyd Stadium is your end of year finals and party, it really draws people from especially the region, but as you pointed out, all over the country and the world.
I'm sure throughout your long story career with Monster Jam being at Sam Boyd, you probably witnessed a lot of families coming in and building memories with their kids that could last a lifetime. So I'm sure that affected you positively when it came to building this relationship, right?
It's amazing the multiple generations that we would see, both Monster Jam and Supercross. Grandfathers, with their sons and their daughters, and it kind of became a pilgrimage of sorts for these families and multiple generations to come out and see really the best that both Monster Jam and Supercross had to offer.
When you came on board for that first World Finals, did you know at the time that this was going to be the home of World Finals for nearly 2 decades, or was that something that was discussed after that first event, to your knowledge?
No, we didn't know. We didn't even know if the Monster Jam World Finals would be the success that it is today. When the first World Finals, I don't even think we had maybe 3/4 of the stadium full, and our big hook was 22 trucks for $22. And
That's great.
we were just trying to get people in the stands. It took a couple years before we were to the point where we felt like, wow, we really have something here, and could really see a long-term future. But I don't think any of us, especially in the first few years, knew that it would grow to what it is today and be at Sam Boyd Stadium for as long as it was.
Now, do you think that we could bring back the 4 trucks for $24 as some sort of coupon deal? That's amazing marketing, man. That's incredible. As we transition to Orlando, Nashville, Los Angeles, any changes that you saw through World Finals besides just the stadium, or any similarities brought over from Sam Boyd?
Obviously the biggest changes that we had, we kept expanding the number of days of the World Finals over these years, from a 1-day real humble event to we added a Friday night, which we called Double Down, which was qualifying, and we separated racing and freestyle, which was a big change at the time, because no matter where you went to see Monster Jam, it was always racing and freestyle in the same night. So separating it allowed us to really change the track significantly, and as well as at Sam Boyd Stadium, which is really the smallest stadium we played for Monster Jam, ironically, considering it was our marquee event. We need additional capacity. So in order to improve the production of the event and competition, as well as grow the event itself, in many ways we were forced to separate it into 2 days.
Coming up, more about Sam Boyd Stadium with Tom Williams next on Inside Monster Jam, powered by Lucas Oil. Welcome back to Inside Monster Jam, powered by Lucas Oil, the official Monster Jam podcast. This week we are discussing the legacy of Sam Boyd Stadium with Feld Entertainment's Tom Williams. Tom, the decision to move Monster Jam World Finals to Orlando in 2019, was that something to your knowledge that was because we knew the stadium was closing, or was that to branch out to allow different markets to take it and make it more like a Super Bowl event?
Yeah, good question. I think it was a multiple factors, much of what you just described. I mean, we knew that Sam Boyd Stadium was going to be closing because of UNLV's relationship with the Raiders, who were moving to Las Vegas, and the football team moving over to Allegiant Stadium to play there. Additionally, we had a lot of interest from other cities to want to host the Monster Jam World Finals. It kind of comes with the territory of growing an event to the level that we had. Additionally, we saw an opportunity to take the World Finals to more people. You know, being in Las Vegas for as long as we were, it was convenient for people who lived in, say, Southern California to drive, 4 hours or take a short flight to Las Vegas. Or even anyone in the West Coast. It was more convenient versus if you lived in New York or Chicago or Orlando or Houston. A little bit more difficult, especially for a family who, quite frankly, many of them want to drive just to save on additional costs. So it was a great way for us to bring the very best that Monster Jam has to our best fans around the country.
Yeah, I had a chance to be the pit reporter for the last World Finals at Sam Boyd Stadium. I had a chance to call the last Supercross Championship at Sam Boyd Stadium, and I had a chance to call the All-Star Challenge, which was our last event. So hopefully I didn't curse our relationship by being a part of all of those events. But those
I don't think so.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it, because that's always kind of stuck with me. Wait a minute, I was at the last one for each one of these things, and now it just sits there. Let's talk about those 3 events specifically, because all obviously different entities. Monster Jam World Finals, Supercross Championships, completely different. But even the Monster Energy Cup had a much different feel from a normal Supercross event. So looking at the grand spectrum of those 3 events, which one did you like the best? Did you have a favorite? Was there different things you liked about each one, different elements?
Yeah, good question. I first started in this business working on Monster Jam. So I will always have a soft spot for Monster Jam and typically gravitate toward that. The color of the trucks and the personality of them and the drivers involved and getting to see a young Tom Mintz rising to fame and those sort of things. So Monster Jam World Finals has always been my favorite.
So UNLV right now has that relationship, as you mentioned, with the Raiders, and I'll be joined by Mike Newcomb from UNLV after the break coming up here to talk about that. But right now the stadium sits in the desert, just gaining dust by itself. It's almost a sad tale when you realize all the huge events that have happened and there, all the championships that were won, and then you drive over there now, it's just kind of sitting there gathering dust. If you saw that stadium now, would you have a sense of sadness just looking at the condition of it? I mean, they've obviously kept it up, but it sits there with no occupants right now.
Sure. I mean, it was my home away from home for 18 years. I was there 3-4 times a year for events. It would be sad to see. I'll say this though, knowing that the end, at least at that time, was coming, it wasn't a surprise.
Yeah.
Right. I think the biggest sadness and frustration for me out of all that was that the last 2 events we had scheduled there with Monster Jam in March of 2020 and Supercross in April of 2020 were canceled due to COVID. So it kind of robbed everybody of the opportunity to say goodbye to Sam Boyd Stadium at that time.
And I think that really adds because the fans, I mean, they're just all riled about Sam Boyd Stadium. Why do we leave? Why do we have to go? And I'm trying to get those answers today. I appreciate you helping me about that. But Sam Boyd Stadium has such a huge legacy, has left a huge legacy with Monster Jam and Supercross. What do you think at the end of the day, just to summarize, that legacy would be?
Yeah, I think in the eyes of Monster Jam and Supercross fans, it's not unlike old Yankee Stadium or the LA Forum. It's an old venue that everyone grew to love because every time you went there for one of these events, you had the chance to see a champion crowned. You had the chance to see the unbelievable happen.
Yeah.
It was a rite of passage of sorts for fans of the two sports, and I think it lives in the hearts of those fans as um, just one of those great venues that you have tremendous memories of that you'll be telling for years and be missing as you watch this Supercross and Monster Jam in other venues.
Yeah, you mentioned those great stadiums. For me, as a lifelong wrestling fan, I look at Sam Boyd Stadium as sort of the Madison Square Garden of Monster Jam. It's just sad that right now we have that great legacy, but I know fans would love to go back for one last hurrah, and maybe Mike can answer those questions coming up next. But thank you so much, Tom, for being here, man. I appreciate it, and hopefully I'll catch up with you somewhere down the road, man.
Sounds great. Thanks,
Thank you.
Scott.
Coming up next, Mike Newcomb from UNLV will be here on Inside Monster Jam, powered by Lucas Oil. Welcome back to Inside Monster Jam, powered by Lucas Oil, the official Monster Jam podcast. I'm Scott Jordan. This week, we are discussing the legacy of Sam Boyd Stadium. We heard from Tom Williams earlier. Now it is my pleasure to fire back up the Great Clips hotline and go out to Vegas to welcome in Mike Newcomb, the executive director at UNLV. Mike, thanks for being on the show, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, Scott, thanks for the invite. Excited to talk about the history here.
Absolutely, man. So a lot of fans just are still so unforgiving that Monster Jam is no longer at Sam Boyd Stadium. It's a huge topic of conversation. It's always in my inbox on social media. I wanted to give them some closure here as to what's actually going on, and so it's great to have you from UNLV. First, before we really break that down, let's talk about your role in all of this, being a part of Monster Jam and Supercross at the stadium.
Just such great. I started off, in '96 working in the parking lot. So I'm assigned to, my first event as an event manager was a monster truck event. And obviously back then in the day, very small, we're redeeming beef jerky wrappers for tickets and just to see, we had the tough trucks out there and just to see, I think what we started off with Pace at the time,
Yeah.
When we started Monster Jam and then went to Live Nation. And then obviously when Feld took over and took the whole thing to the next level, just growing up in that world, really special event out there for Sam Boyd and myself. And I think it really set the standard of what a Las Vegas event is. It's a culmination. It's not, at that time, it's not a full season of whatever. It's the world. People want to see the championship, the world championship, the finals, and the way that developed from a one-day event to a two-day event to a three-day event, and the attention to detail for the fans made it such a special time to be out at Sam Boyd.
And Vegas is an entertainment mecca. People go there for big moments, and now obviously Vegas is a huge sports town, and that wasn't necessarily the case back in the day. So do you feel that having Monster Jam and Supercross back at the beginning in these early days really kind of helped develop Las Vegas into the sports town that it is now?
Absolutely. When you're hosting the monster truck and there's 40,000 people out there and 85% of them are from out of town, that's what this city is all about, driving visitor traffic. The guys from monster truck management were great to provide, they knew what they're bringing to the table, and that's why we went from 1 day to 2 day to 3 day. Now all of a sudden you're bringing, in a sense, 120,000 people over a weekend to enjoy monster trucks out there. Really showed you that was the focus of the town, to bring people in. And back in the day, we're obviously the only stadium in town. The guys from monster trucks were pivotal in selling that to the city, that we need a new venue. Hey, we need to take this event to the next level. They came and spoke at some of the meetings when people were talking about stadiums, ago, hey, we're big supporters. So those guys played a major part in what the city is today. I mean, people see them succeed. Monster trucks and Supercross is, a testament to their hard work and their product.
And we know there's that saying that all good things must come to an end at some point. So 2019, we move World Finals to Orlando, and then Monster Energy Supercross moves out, and there was that question, why did we have to leave? So I want to ask you right here, man-to-man, face-to-face, why did Monster Jam and Monster Energy Supercross have to move their events out of Sam Boyd Stadium?
Once we realized that the Raiders were going to come to town and Allegiant Stadium was going to be built, obviously that began a big transition for us here at UNLV, because you see the end of Sam Boyd coming along. Written in the law, the Senate bill was a clause that we needed to close and not compete with the new stadium in town the year that opened. So the target then was probably when they're going to be done was 2020, 2021. So I think that obviously it was going to come to an end. And I think the guys from Feld, obviously they have an important business to run, wanted to see how the future of the monster trucks and the Supercross were there. Because obviously it's successful in a lot of other cities. Orlando, great destination. So I think they tried to get a little bit of traction moving forward to get us a solid, home for that finals, and maybe tour it around like other stops. Maybe we want to bring it to this part of the country, in preparation for us having to close when that day came. So obviously it was a much different crowd when we're not hosting the world finals for both, but still very good. But you missed that bang with the world finals of just the total destruction and the amount of money they put into that show, and the amount of time and effort and thinking to make the fans happy. So sad to see that leave. Obviously our business relationship with those guys was great, and the communications, totally understand their position in that. But I think that, getting ahead of the shutdown and then trying to negotiate with the new stadium in town for a future, what was the goal there.
So what is the status of the stadium right now? Is it just waiting for this deal to expire, or are there plans imminently for the reopening of Sam Boyd?
So no, the stadium's permanently closed. Our last event after the fall Supercross in 19 was the Las Vegas Bowl in December of 19. And since that time, we've hosted a few non-public events during the COVID times. Actually, a couple football teams from New Mexico and San Jose played their games and practiced out there just due to regulations there. And we did host a couple UNLV commencements when we needed the 6 foot per person rule, but it's been closed since that time. Actually, there's a Board of Regents meeting in September with a motion in there to maybe come into a relationship with Clark County and develop that park that's next to Sam Boyd and an overall rec center down there. So unfortunately, our baby out there that was such a great host for so many events and made such a difference in this city is closed.
How is the new relationship with the Raiders and Allegiant Stadium treating you with UNLV?
I think obviously they've transitioned a lot over the past few years, but it's great. Sandra Douglas Morgan, the Raiders president, she's a UNLV grad. She really supports the athletic director. We love playing our home games over there. Obviously, it's a great tool for coach and the kids to as a recruiting tool to go along with our state-of-the-art practice facility. So we made our first bowl game in about 12 years last year. Predicted to be atop of the conference. So you've seen it, along with the coaching staff, make a big difference for us.
I think the future is still bright for Monster Jam in Las Vegas, and we will have you back here for some fan questions next on Inside Monster Jam, powered by Lucas Oil. Welcome back to Inside Monster Jam, powered by Lucas Oil. I am joined by Mike Newcomb from UNLV as we chat about the legacy of Sam Boyd Stadium. It is your turn to take over the questions. You can do that each week on Instagram at ScottJordanMJSX. All right, Mike, Geo_Bass17 wants to know what made Sam Boyd Stadium the premier venue for Monster Jam World Finals.
The space. We have space out there, which was key. Obviously, we keep the monster truck and Supercross dirt is still out there, and along with equipment, we have space for that. We had 12 acres of grass adjacent to the stadium for pit party and parking, and 25,000 spaces for cars. Obviously, the stadium seating is smaller, 35,000, but it's built in a way where there's not a bad seat in the house. And so I think the overall impact of the weather, the setup and everything that Monster Trucks brought to the table for the fans was, culminating in that finals was amazing.
Perfect weekends out there, man. Okay, so Al's3179 has a question that a lot of fans have, and his only question is, can they buy Sam Boyd Stadium and use it as a practice facility? And that was, I think, a big question, is as soon as everybody found out that the stadium was shut down, why don't we just buy it? Why doesn't Monster Jam just buy it and use it? It's not that easy, right?
Yeah. That'd be pretty cool to have like Monster Jam University out there or some kind of training center. Yeah, there's so many political issues out there. Like all the parking was owned by the Bureau of Land Management through a lease through the county back to us. We as a university own inside the fence, the stadium, the inside parking, and a little bit to the north. There's some stuff written in the laws where it can only be used as a recreational facility. So, because first thing when they knew we were closing, a lot of developers called it. It just couldn't, the law states it couldn't be turned into houses. About 7 million plus when we priced it out to tear it down. So there's some costs out there, but major, I think that Clark County is a potential suitor for the property to enhance the parks out there. But yeah, I mean, we could have proposed that. I don't know how that would have went, but a lot of red tape out there on that land.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't buy something that's not for sale, so it doesn't work that way. Mike, thank you so much. You've been awesome to hear it come from you, who's there and knows all of these details. I think our fans are very appreciative of being able to hear your voice.
Greatest fans in the world, and I mean, just with the greatest event, the amount of detail that was put into that event. We look forward every year to see what are we going to do at the end. We had a plane out there on the floor. I think we had RVs, we had a swimming pool, a boat, and then the lights turn out. There's 6 or 8 grave diggers. So everybody was just so excited to see what was going to happen at the end of freestyle. But great fans, great event. We're just proud to play a big part of that.
Well, hopefully we'll see you at the baseball stadium in 2028. Until then, we'll see you at Thomas & Mack Center, man. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
That's all the time we have for this week. I'll see you next week with another brand new edition of Inside Monster Jam, powered by Lucas Oil.